So it's going to be a surprising trio to most, I think. It's not a note I love. I say that quite a lot, don't I? But it doesn't mean I don't have fragrance. Of course we all have fragrances with this note in it. You can see from the title it's Ambroxan. I don't know why I always like build that tension. It's in the title, isn't it? But yeah, Ambroxan is a molecular note. Was it from the 50s or something like that? I think they discovered it, or whatever. Probably even earlier, I don't know, making stuff up as I talk. I just remember hearing that maybe. Anyway, what it does is it kind of carries the fragrance, it pushes it out a bit. It's also like, was sort of to replace ambergris, which is an expensive note. So it does have that kind of salty muskiness about it. Although in modern times, it's always been used, but in modern times it's used as, I'm trying to think of a polite word, a fixative, a kind of cheap. Well, it's not actually. Ambroxan itself isn't cheap. Let's not kid ourselves. And there's lots of iterations of it and stuff. It's just sometimes, obviously, it can be cheap, and that tends to be the Ambroxan that, for me personally, well, I don't know if that's a fact, but it gives me a headache. It feels like behind my eye is burning. It can burn my nostrils as well. It's not. This is subjective. This doesn't mean it's bad or it's the same for everyone else, does it? So, you know, it's just a personal experience. And then, obviously, did it ruin the for a bit? I suppose is of course the older Sauvage, which is the most famous one, where they amped it up, made it metallic and peppery. And then other brands seem to think, well, you don't need to actually put anything in our fragrances other than these molecular things. Anyway, let's just crack on. I could probably moan about this for hours and hours on end, so let's just crack on. So first up, yeah, again, I know, technically, is it indie, is it not? Does it matter, does it not? Who cares? It's, the words are meaningless, aren't they? Matière Première, French flower. Now this is predominantly a tuberose flower, and what these are quite clever as a brand of doing is constructing what it's about, like Oud 7. It's a construction of oud, and French flower kind of, I suppose, goes along that same path of like a construction of wow, that's a big thistle, of tuberose. So it's obviously, it's got tuberose, it's got things that kind of smell like tuberose and amp it up, and it's got jasmine, I think, in it, like some white flowers to give more of that feeling, some woods, and it's also got Ambroxan in it. Now the Ambroxan also suits as kind of like it does what it's supposed to do, you know. It pushes the fragrance out, that kind of ambergris musky feel to it, and that bit of kind of saltiness adds to the musk, but it also obviously makes it last and pushes it out. Also gives it kind of a breezy quality, so it works quite nicely in it. And it's at this level where it's about, say, this much Ambroxan, whereas, you know, some big niche house now uses this much Ambroxan, so it's about this much, and the average fragrance probably has about this much. So it's not over the top, and it helps it. You do, well, I notice it anyway. It is noticeable, but because I suppose the fragrance is quite beautiful and it doesn't take over, it's quite enjoyable. If I spray heavy, then I'm going to suffer the consequences, but that's my own problem, isn't it? So that's Matière Première French flower. Next is one you wouldn't expect me to like, but I really do, and it's because I don't own anything like it. That's Kajal 3. Now what this is it's Fanta, basically. Fanta with a bit of woods. It's quite lovely. It's just like this fizzy orange, and I imagine the Ambroxan gives a bit of that fizz actually. Some woods, there's some flowers in it, blah blah blah. There's a lot going on in it, more than what I'm just saying. But what ultimately it smells like is a fizzy Fanta juice with a bit more kind of dark warmth in there It's not just that, obviously, but I love it. I wouldn't wear it a lot, but in the summer, because again I don't have anything like that, and I can really struggle with orange. But orange is a kind of fresh sweet note, isn't it? It's quite enjoyable at times. It works quite nicely, and the Ambroxan, like I said, has that bit of a fizz. It has that kind of musky feel. I think there's patchouli in there, and it, you know, it kind of mixes with them, and it goes pushes it out, because obviously a citrusy fragrance would naturally sit kind of close to you, but it keeps it pushing out and it keeps it kind of going all day. There'll be other stuff in there as well, but that's ultimately it. Don't need to waffle on about it. It's not the most complicated fragrance, but it's good. That's Kajal's 3. And finally, I mean, you may have noticed Ambroxan is not the main note in all these things, thankfully. Is a drop dissy from Issey Miyake. Now this is all about the lilac, with a kind of creaminess, the tiniest touch of sort of an aquatic muskiness, and again that's the Ambroxan, and obviously it pushes it out as well. And again, it's delicately done in this. It's not the main thing, and again, I'm not going to go on about materials, but yes, it doesn't become obnoxious and it doesn't take over. And obviously you've got the beautiful purple lilac, that sweet, beautiful, greeny, spring-like feel in there. There's other flowers, like I say, you've got that almost suntanny creaminess, which works really quite nicely in it actually, but it's never too much. And I think the Ambroxan is actually one of the notes that stops it going sickly creamy. So there you go, it can have good purposes as well. And it's just it's a very enjoyable spring fragrance. What more can I say about it? It has a bit of warmth and a bit of depth, and again, it's not, I suppose it would be much lighter without the Ambroxan, but it doesn't completely take over. So yeah, that's ultimately it. That's a Lilac Love from a drop dissy. So yeah, it was just, you know, brief, to the point, hopefully. And it just shows that we may not like notes, but sometimes they work in a way in fragrance we don't notice them so much, you know, where they're used kind of delicately, and what they can be used for, not as a replacement for every other ingredients, because it's cheaper. And Ambroxan can be like that. Like I say, it's been in our fragrances a lot longer than we think it has. It's just become more noticeable of late, hasn't it? Laziness and lack of creativity and what have you. So bloody hell. So yeah, that's Ambroxan. What about yourself? What's your favourite Ambroxan heavy fragrance? Can you enjoy it in fragrances? Is it a big no-no? Are there any other molecules that you kind of struggle with or really enjoy and can't get past trees in the middle of? Alright folks, thanks for watching, bye.